So the year is 1986, and I've just graduated from the University of Sheffield in England with a degree in geography. My name is Robin Hill, and I've been a photographer for 35 years. But I want to tell you a little bit of a story about how I became a photographer. Back in 1984, early 1985, my Great Auntie Kathleen had bought me a pretty nice camera, a Minolta X300. And I'd fallen in love with photography. I even used to sleep with the camera under my pillow with the belief that it would make me a better photographer. But at that time, I had no experience whatsoever. I don't think I had any creativity at all, really. But I was desperate to become a professional photographer. And what was I doing with a geography degree? You know, maybe becoming a chartered surveyor or something like that? I didn't really know. So anyway, June 1986 comes around, and I say to myself, you know what, the only way I'm going to become a professional photographer is if I move to London. So, with about £10 in my pocket, I hitchhiked down to London because I can't afford the train journey. And I put out my thumb right outside the A1 motorway, and this car pulls over, but he doesn't pull over like right in front of me. He pulls over about 80 yards further down the entrance ramp. And I'd already been there for about 2 hours. So I said, I'm just going to run over there and knock on his window. So I did that, and the gentleman in the car looks at me with a bit of a cynical look. And I said, please, mate, can you give me a ride down to London? Anyway, he says, okay, come in the passenger seat. You know, I'll give you a ride. As I get in the passenger seat, I look on the back seat, and there's this camera bag overflowing with Nikon lenses and Nikon F3s. And I sit in the passenger seat, and I said to him, bloody hell, mate, are you a photographer? And he says, yeah, how'd you guess that? So, turns out this guy is a photojournalist, and his name is Dodd Miller. And he's a freelancer, and he works for different newspapers like the Sunday Times, the Observer, the Guardian, all of these top newspapers in Britain. And so I get this ride down to London with a photographer. I mean, you can't make this stuff up, you know. But he taught me a few really important things on that journey. One of them being what it was like to live the life of a photographer. And what I found really interesting is that one day, Dodd would be taking pictures of bricklayers, and the next day maybe an artist. The next day would be a captain of industry. Just all these different kind of stories, all from different layers of society, and I knew then that that was really what I wanted to do. But he said to me, the most important thing he said to me was, Robin, please don't ask me any more questions about your damn Minolta X300. Forget about the equipment. It's about training your eye. Train, train, train your eye. That's what it's about. So I took that advice on board. I arrived in London. I stayed with my friend down in the East End. And it took me a while to find work as a photographer. I was actually temping for manpower at the time. I even had a job as a theatre porter at the Royal Marsden Cancer Hospital, amongst many other rather strange jobs. But eventually, in the Guardian newspaper on a Monday morning, they had this advertisement for creative marketing media. And I remember it was right down in the bottom right-hand corner, and there was this advertisement for portrait photographers. And I said, oh, maybe I can get a job as a portrait photographer. So I went along to the interview, and they said, well, you're starting in 2 days' time. We really need somebody. You know, we'll train you. And I remember the name of the company. It was called Parasol Portrait Photography. What they would do is they would have temporary studios around London in supermarkets and department stores, and you'd set up for 4 or 6 weeks, and you'd take pictures, and then everybody would come back and buy their pictures. And you know what? In a profession that I really knew nothing about, you got to start somewhere. So that's where I started. Well, the years passed, and fortunately, you know, I did a little bit better than my career than taking pictures of toddlers in supermarkets. But 35 years passed by of all different kinds of adventures. And I'm looking at the Guardian newspaper, and there's this article, and it says, Dodd Miller's best photograph, knight in shining armor. And I said to myself, that's the dude that picked me up 35 years ago on the A1 motorway. I said, bloody hell, I got to get in touch with him. So I go on the internet, and I see his website, and I see all this really cool black and white work. And in that work is this series called Birdmen, and there's this photograph. This one is called Knight in Shining Armor. So I take a chance and I email him and I say, in the subject line it said, amazing Birdmen photo. And I write this email to Dodd saying, look, you probably don't remember me, but you picked me up 35 years ago. Anyway, I get an email back from Dodd saying, yeah, I remember you. I said, great, is that photograph for sale? He says, Robin, it just turns out that I've got a show at Messham's in London, which is this really nice photography gallery, and this photograph is for sale. So I got in touch with Messham's and I bought the photograph. It's an edition 1 of 1. And now it's hanging in our collection here in Miami as a permanent reminder of keeping your mind open to any opportunity. So this kind of story, these sort of synchronicities, it always told me, don't go so hard looking for the path. Let the path come for you. If your intention is in the right spot, these things are going to happen. Just listen for them and they'll come along. So I'm eternally grateful for Dodd Miller introducing me to the most important thing about photography, which is to train your eye. Thank you for listening, my friends. Safe journey. My name is Robin Hill.